Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to another podcast of the Soul Ashraya. I love that name. I love what it means. I am Bhakta Jake, and I am with my excellent friend and excellent Prabhu, Balaram Shakti Das.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. How are you today, friend?
Doing great. I woke up extra early today, earlier than probably I've woken up since coming back from India. And had a really nice start to the day. Had enough time to go to the temple for Mangala Arati, so that was huge.
Awesome.
Absolutely wonderful. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, things here in the old Rochester, New York are just work all the time. But I am so thankful for this time that we have together to dig into the Krishna book, which we are going to get into right away without any delay. If you want to lead us in our invocations, and we'll get right into the book because I think it's going to be a good thing today.
Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jai. Jai. Yes.
So for those of you who aren't familiar, we chant these mantras. We were talking about mantras last week.
Mm-hmm.
So we chant these invocation prayers essentially to our spiritual masters and to the Lord himself. So the first one, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, is really not, that's really like we're like tuning in together. So it's nice and kind of elongated, and it's really like an opportunity to dial it in, and that's really what we're trying to do actually in spiritual life, right? Spiritual life itself it's a dialing it in, right? And so much of our day and our world and our reality is out there, right? And that's how we get entangled. Whereas the soul Ashraya, really the shelter, the refuge of the soul, is in dialing it in through this sound vibration. This is how we directly connect and link and repose ourselves, and the shelter is there. The Lord is present in the sound vibration. So like that, where the first mantra is nice to like do call and response with. So one person will chant it, and then everyone will follow and just try to follow the the pitch if you will, and then the vibration itself, it's devotionally linked with the Lord. And then the others are to spiritual masters, and ultimately the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And generally, we'll just chant those in unison. There's many of those, but we just say a few basics. I think there's something else I was going to say on that, but that's okay. Anyway, this morning is very special because we have this this Krishna mantra, and all that I know about it is, well, it's a bunch of names of so the introduction is starting with this mantra, right? And Srila Prabhupada is doing that as his invocation for writing this book. Right. So the invocations that we chant come from the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, so you can learn them there. Actually, that's generally what new devotees in a temple will do, is whenever they gather for reading, for book study, have their Bhagavad Gita, and they'll just start page 1 and read through those invocations. And over time, I mean, we chant them every day, at least once a day in the temple, the start of every class, pretty much. So gradually you learn them. This one, Prabhupada's giving here for the Krishna book, and it's just names of Krishna. Yes. It's pretty much, and you'll see it's a lot of names of Krishna. It is. Krishna a whole bunch of times. So the only thing I really know about this mantra is this was chanted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was traveling. And I believe it was when he was traveling alone or not quite alone. He had one companion. He wanted to go alone, but the devotees convinced him to take one companion. And anyway, the basic idea is he wanted to go to Vrindavan. He said, now's the time. I'm a sannyas, monk, and the duty of a sannyasi is to travel to holy places. It's also the duty to preach. And it's the duty of the sannyasi, which means the highest order of renunciate, to really take shelter, to really just, again, dial in and enter internally in this internal space with God and pretty much remain there, right? So he wanted to go alone to do that, but they convinced him to take one companion, just as like a Sherpa, you could say, right? Make sure he didn't, because he was going into transcendental ecstasy all the time, like losing external consciousness. So they're like, that's not safe. You're going to be traveling through the jungle, So take someone with you. Make sure you don't, leave your body. So he did. And I believe it was in this time, which would make sense, that he would chant this mantra often as he was, strolling down the path. He would just chant the names of Krishna. And so it's said that this mantra is one that bestows protection of Krishna. I mean, every Krishna mantra pretty much does that, but you'll see it's pretty directly apparent. You're literally just calling out to Krishna in a mood of kind of exuberance. Anyway, there's one way I know I've heard Madhava Prabhu sing it that's really nice, and it's nice and it's slow. And then you can just chant it kind of normally in more of a upbeat way.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. So Lord Chaitanya is so in tune with Lord that he's literally, he's on that other level where he's just going into ecstasy all the time. And they're like, like, so he was literally just passing out because he was like in the spirit world that much. Wow, man. So this mantra, I honestly, of course, I mean, I have never heard it, but and we are on page 1 of the introduction in the Krishna book. So here's written the mantra, and then at the bottom it says Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 7.96. I'm sure I just messed up saying that.
No, you actually nailed it. Yeah. Nice.
I love all the time. So what is this? What is this Chaitanya
Charitamrita?
Yeah. What is that exactly?
Charitamrita.
Is that
Yeah, this is a very important book. Okay. Yeah, it's one of our scriptures. It's one of our principal scripture. There are several authorized biographies on the life of Lord Chaitanya. This is one of them, and this is perhaps the most important for us. There's a lot I could say on it. It's considered in our movement to be like the doctorate study in spiritual life. Bhagavad Gita is the undergraduate study of spiritual life.
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam is the graduate study, so it follows the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is the foundation. It's an advanced book, undergraduate study. But that's the foundation of Krishna consciousness. And then Srimad Bhagavatam builds on that in an extraordinary way. And Chaitanya, and that's like, Srimad Bhagavatam is the most essential scripture in our movement. It's
right. Yes, that's the cream
of the everything crop. That's the cream of the crop. Everything about spiritual life is contained within it, and it is Krishna himself in book form. This is also Krishna himself in book form, and this is actually a summary of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam in Prabhupada's words. Prabhupada is explaining the 10th canto, the cream of the cream, to the lay person. Basically, he's just, because the 10th canto is Krishna's face. It's Krishna, the person. The rest, the lower 9 cantos, that's his body. And the idea is that by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, you are installing Krishna in your heart. By Krishna says in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, those who study the scripture worship me with their intelligence. So we're worshiping Krishna with our intelligence when we read the scriptures. And it's a way for us to understand the philosophy, all the different tattvas of God, the philosophy, the activities, the stories, the relationships, and how devotees act with him, how he acts with devotees. It's not just like, you can achieve perfection just by looking at a picture of Krishna or chanting his names, but this is a way for our intelligence to really accelerate that and bring him in this literary form, which is weaving in spiritual intelligence. And our heart will very much bring this form of Krishna in. I hope that made some sense. It's a very elevated concept that I'm just kind of starting to understand. I'm in the 4th canto right now. And it's definitely like each canto is like there's more subtle things that it's bringing in for you.
Yeah.
And so the idea is you're working up, bringing God into your heart, and then the heart of Bhagavatam, in a sense, I mean, there's anyway, the Bhagavatam is basically framing the 10th canto, which is exclusively Krishna's story, which is this book. This is exclusively Krishna. Everything else is more like Krishna's expansions, the other forms of God, it's also Krishna, and there's parts where Krishna is directly there. But yeah, it's Bhagavatam, like the essence of Bhagavatam is Krishna book. So then this whole philosophy, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is the story of Krishna as Chaitanya and all of his associates, and how Krishna's internal personalities, the different personalities within Krishna, which are basically these 5 personalities, which is, maybe we'll get into that at some point. And what I wanted to say though is his disciples, the disciples of the Lord, they are all already on the platform of Srimad Bhagavatam. They have perfect understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. They're living the Bhagavatam, and they're relishing the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, talking about Krishna, chanting Krishna's names. Like the final conclusion that the Bhagavatam gives is chant Hare. And so the Hare Krishnas, the original Hare Krishnas, were the associates of Lord Chaitanya 500 years ago. They were on that pinnacle of spiritual life. This is what the spiritual life looks like. So to enter into Chaitanya Charitamrita, you really have to read Srimad Bhagavatam first. So therefore, Bhagavatam, just as it builds on Bhagavad Gita, and Charitamrita builds on the Bhagavatam. So yeah, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita is divided into 3 sections: the early life of Chaitanya, the middle section, and the final stage of his life. So Madhya means middle. So this is from the 7th chapter. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, I'll start. I'll chant the mantra and then read the first paragraph.
Yeah, I just want to.
Yeah.
I know I put a picture of it in the group, but I kind of just wanted to.
Yeah.
One can see. I know it's backwards, but it's this mantra right here.
No, it's not. It's forwards.
Oh, it is forward. Oh. Okay,
Yeah.
Jai? Go ahead.
Jai. Okay. Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Rakshamam, Krishna, 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 Pahimam, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. It's fun, right?
Good one. Wow.
Yeah. And then I'll just do one line.
Oh, yeah.
Madhava's version is Krishna, 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 Hey. That's really nice.
Yes. Very nice.
There's like like this like ebbing and flowing, like waves kind of cadence to it. Whereas the one I chanted is, what do you call it, staccato or something,
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different cadence, like more of a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's actually the way you are supposed to say it is that way, or you can do it any way you want to.
That's how I've heard it. I think I heard Yamuna Devi chant this once.
Okay.
Krishna, 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 hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And that seems like a good thing to throw into a kirtan, right?
That's probably where I heard that, was just kind of totally randomly. But it would probably throw most people off.
Yeah.
If you did.
It is a good
Like,
one.
why is he? That's not how the mantra goes. Okay. Yeah. So with that, calling on the names of Krishna to invoke his blessings in reading this book, Krishna. Very fitting. Let us begin.
Yes.
While attempting to write this book, Krishna, let me first offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Om Vishnu Pad 108 Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada. Then let me offer my respectful obeisances to the ocean of mercy, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, appearing in the role of a devotee just to distribute the highest principles of devotional service. Lord Chaitanya began his preaching from the country known as Gauda Desh, West Bengal. And as I belong to the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, I must therefore offer my respectful obeisances to the disciplic succession of that name. This Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is also known as the Brahma Sampradaya because the disciplic succession originally began from Brahma. Brahma instructed the sage Narada, Narada instructed Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva instructed Madhva Muni or Madhvacharya. Sri Madhavendra Puri, the originator of the Madhya Gaudiya Sampradaya, was a sannyasi, renunciant, who belonged to the Madhvacharya disciplic succession. He had many renowned disciples such as Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, and Ishvara Puri. Ishvara Puri happened to be the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let us offer our respectful obeisances to Ishvara Puri, Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita Charya Prabhu, Srivas Pandit, and Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Next, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Swarup Damodar, who acted as the private secretary to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And let us offer our respectful obeisances to Sri Vasudev Dutt, the constant attendant of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Govinda, and the constant friend of Lord Chaitanya Mukunda, also to Murari Gupta. And let us offer our respectful obeisances to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. So really quick, these are the principal associates of Lord Chaitanya, and it's describing where Lord Chaitanya fits in historically in terms of the lineage of this movement.
Right.
How much of that were you able to follow?
Well, I was able
Are you very familiar with Gaudiya, with Madhva Gaudiya,
yeah,
Brahma Sampradaya?
yeah, I am familiar with the concept of the sampradayas and how they are discipline or disciplic succession. That is a concept that is in heavy in the Pentecostal circles that
Right.
I've ran in. So I understand the lineage, and that's basically really what it is. When you boil it all down at the end of the day, it's all about the lineage, and it's great to have a lineage of spiritual teachers because that just gives you such a platform. not even a platform, like a very strong foundation, I would say, of what you're talking about and what you're getting into. Because if you can, if you want to say something, that's one thing, but if you can trace what you're saying back 100, 200, 300 years, that gives it so much more weight in terms of spiritual context, historical context. So I understand the secession doing that, but I also understand it as giving authority in the spiritual world too. It gives it authority, so it actually is showing you a line of authority going back to, you know, this point, whatever that point is, 500 years ago. So that authority has come down from generation to generation to generation, and that authority comes from the actual spirit world. So you can trace it, it's traceable. So yeah, I understand it. And for newcomers who, you know, maybe all of this is brand new, this is something that really bought me in, really got me into Krishna consciousness. I think that if you could not trace it, I wouldn't be into it, because the authority is there. You can link it back to Krishna himself. So yeah, I mean, I get it, and I suggest to newcomers of I mean, you could say pretty much any religion, like, if you want real spiritual authority, look for secession and look for hundreds of years of authority given, handed down from generation to generation. You know, that's what you would call a green flag. You know, you know, you're going in the right way. So yeah, I get it. Is that what you were asking? I hope it was.
That was partly definitely what I was asking.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a really nice explanation, and I agree. That's huge. That it gives, it gives real authority. The Bhagavad Gita explains the science of receiving transcendental knowledge in the 4th chapter of the book. I was looking to see if I had written. We were just discussing something on this the other day. That's okay. So the end of the 4th chapter, Krishna explains to Arjuna the science of receiving transcendental spiritual knowledge, and that's tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. So this jnaninas tattvadarshana is describing the one who is in disciplic succession. Jnanina, you know, jnana means knowledge, right? Gnosis comes from that word. So knowing, jnaninas. Tattvadarshana means tattva, right? These different tattvas we've talked about here and there. These principles, the philosophy, the truth, different truths, categories of truth. Darshana, they've seen the truth. They've literally seen the truth. So what is that process? Tadvidi pranipatina means you have to humbly approach these people, render or inquire submissively, and render service to them.
Yeah.
So just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master.
Yeah.
Right? Pranipatina means you're putting yourself in a humble disciple mood. And then inquire submissively, so it means not challengingly, It's not that you just accept everything that they say. Pari prashnena, the pari, it's like it's kind of giving a sense of like all around. You should comprehensively inquire. Don't just ask question and then whatever they say, it's okay. You should have a thorough understanding through inquiry, but it should be submissive. It shouldn't be, if you're just asking challenging questions, you're not going to get the real thing. And then the third point is render service. So pariprashnena sevaya. And then what? Upadekshanti te jnanam, that they will initiate you into knowledge. So anyway, the Bhagavad Gita is giving, that's a very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita that is establishing for all time, actually, the process of getting knowledge. So if you're not doing those three things and then not actually initiating into a disciplic line, you're not getting the truth. And if we analyze those things, we'll understand, like someone who doesn't, like what you were saying, but having this line of authorities, if you're not having that, it is a red flag. Actually, if you can't trace out the lineage, it's like, well, where are you actually getting it? How do I know? It's like there's actually a person in India who was a guru. He may have passed away, but he's someone who claims to be in the disciplic line of Chaitanya, or not the disciplic line, but a follower of Lord Chaitanya, and he's preaching Krishna consciousness, but he refuses to say who his guru is. He keeps it a mystery, and so that shrouds all of his teachings in a weird light. It's like you can't really take anything. You have to take everything with a grain of salt. It's like there's an asterisk next to everything he says because of that. And he makes up some excuse like, oh, having a guru isn't important. It's like, well, Krishna says it's important, and you're trying to teach about Krishna. So like, how can you leave out this very critical instruction of his? And it's when you become a disciple, it's disciple means discipline. It means you're living a life of responsibility. It's like everything is under scrutiny now. You don't have a private life anymore. Like you can be an armchair philosopher and you can talk about the philosophy on one hand, and then you can smoke cigars or whatever on the other, and just kind of, well, I'm free to live as I want to. So you make excuses why you don't need to have a guru. But for the disciple, everything they do, they actually have to live it. They have to apply it because they're under the scrutiny of their guru and they're representing their guru. There's so much there. Please.
I will say that this is really a buy-in for me, for sure. Like, this is being under a guru directly is really probably the best place that you could be, spiritually speaking. And I wanted to say that I explain things through the experiences that I've had, which are mostly Western Christian church. So if I keep on bringing that up over and over again, it's because that's like the closest thing that I have to like a real spiritual life. So
no, this is really good. We've talked about this before. Please speak on that.
Yeah. So it's not because, I favor one or the other at all. It's because what I started as a young person believing in, all of this lines up, but it's even better than what I started off believing in, because it's like it's so much more secure spiritually. You know, when you're in the Western world, there's I will say that there's a gray area, and there's a gray. It's like, well, in this church, you can have a beer. In this church, you can have, whatever, and we can let that slide. And I hate. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to really explain this so people can understand it, because in the Western world, you've got Christianity, which is this umbrella term that I constantly use, which could include Catholicism. When I say Christianity, that could include anything from Roman Catholic to the wildest backwoods guy that dances around with rattlesnakes. Okay, that is the entire spectrum right there. All right, and that's what we have. Super Orthodox Catholic, you know, to like, yeah, like the wildest Pentecostal church you'd ever want to go to. And I also want to say that I have experience in the Pentecostal church. That's why I talk about it all the time. I love those people. They're great people, spirit filled. I get it. I understand it. We're not running a show that is going to belittle anyone's beliefs at all. We are running a show that is going to explain to you spiritual principles to help you grow spiritually. And a lot of these concepts overlap no matter what religion, no matter where you are in the world. Authority is always authority. And that's what we're talking about here. So I just wanted to clear the air that I will probably always use Christianity as like a comparison, or like as a mark, like a leveling mark to see where we're at. I feel like, because that's my background, I guess that's your background too. So we're only talking about it because that's the closest thing to us. So I wanted to say that. And also, very quickly, the guru disciple relationship is something that was another buy-in for me, because that puts you under someone's authority. Okay, and I'm going to harp on this. Apostles, the original apostles, understood this concept from Jesus himself. So the apostles, in order to make more followers, had authority. So it's a very similar thing. We call them gurus, they call them apostles. It's very similar. It's a leader, a spiritual leader for you. So being under a guru is something that right now I am really trying to work towards. I really believe it's the safest place for anybody to be, because it puts you under their authority and their
Puts you under their shelter.
Exactly,
Yeah.
shelter. Yes,
Nice.
and that is something that is very important, and that really is your spiritual life right there. Right there is being under that shelter, and that's what I'm striving towards, and that's what we would like this show to kind of be about, is kind of preparing people for that, to get these things out in the open, and to put these ideas and these concepts out there as like spiritual authority. I think this is a very good. I knew it was going to be a good show today. I just knew it was going to be a good show.
Yeah.
So, all right.
There's okay.
Pass the
There's a
mic.
whole lot I want to discuss on this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Well, because this reminded me of this passage, a question and answer by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, who was Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master. and he was probably the most authoritative personality, period, that ever lived on this planet. I would love to glorify him for 10 minutes, but yeah, I'll share a bit from this. Someone had asked him about Jesus Christ, that Jesus Christ is a world teacher, and his instructions alone are sufficient for our spiritual welfare, being that he's a world teacher. Is it still necessary then to accept a guru, to accept a spiritual master? Also, the Orthodox Christians, Catholics, I guess, they'll say spiritual father.
Sure.
I think starets is something like that. So, one who is still living, one who is presently in the flesh, is that necessary, or can we follow Jesus directly? And so he touches on. Okay, yeah, I'll leave that one to the side for now. So his answer, let me just read a little bit from this. We accept both Jagadguru and Mahantaguru, which present living guru. If only the Jagadguru Vada or Jagadguruism is accepted, the result has many undesirable consequences. If someone accepts such a great soul from the past, in this case Jesus Christ, as Jagadguru, and wishes to follow in his footsteps in the present, but considers that there is no need for any Mahanta Guru, it is questionable to what extent he will be able to properly follow the ways of Jesus. Only the succession of Mahanta Gurus mercifully delivers to us the words of the Supreme Lord or of the Jagadguru Acharyas, teachers. So now this is great. He gives an analogy here. The stream of water that originated in the Himalayas has traveled between Ganga's banks all the way here to Navadweep. So they're sitting in Navadweep,
Yes.
which is West Bengal.
Yes.
That's where we were this winter. So the Ganga, you can just walk across the street from the temple grounds and bathe in the Ganga. So as a result of the Ganga flowing all the way here, even though we are sitting at such a distance from her source, we are able to touch water from the Himalayas. In the same manner, Mahanta Guru brings the current of the river of Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service, as pure and sacred as the waters of Mandakini, which is the Ganga, her source. He brings that current which originates at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord all the way to us and showers it on our heads. Now, there is a lot of really nice double entendre and layered meaning there that he gave, because the Ganges is understood to originate not from this world. It's not just the Himalayan mountains are on the earth, the third dimensional plane. It's actually coming through higher dimensions from the spiritual world itself. And it's explained in the Bhagavatam. It's difficult to wrap our heads around that because it's transcending what our heads are able to wrap around. But this is how the universe is explained, and the Ganges is revered as sacred, and it's always pure, even if materially speaking it's polluted, which it is, very, very polluted. It's not like you'd want to soak in there for days, but it still purifies you. Actually, we all experience that. Everyone experiences that. You dip in the Ganges and you feel like you have a new body. It's amazing. So from the foot of Vishnu, of the Lord, of an avatar of Krishna, his foot kicked through the outer covering of the universe, and out came the Ganges. That's how it it's understood in, story form. So it's coming from, so we always say that the Ganges is coming from the feet of God, right? And so that's, we understand that the feet of God is where we get our spiritual shelter. That is like the quality of the Lord's feet. Each of the Lord's limbs has different qualities, right? So the quality of his feet is that they give shelter. And so many auspicious markings are there on his feet, which denote all the different, ways that he gives protection and so forth. And then that it showers on our heads. It's like there's a, subtle, there's a layered meaning there, that because the Ganges, when it enters this universe, it first falls on the head of Shiva, right? So whenever you see a depiction of Shiva, he has the Ganges on his head. And he's doing that so as to like buffer those waters. Anyway, I found that an interesting little thing he did there. So the pure teaching of the world teacher, which Jesus Christ, we were accepting as one of these great Jagat Gurus. Jagat Guru is a very rare thing. Their teachings are valid for all time and all people, all places. But that's just like the purity and potency of the water at the origin of the Ganges in the Himalayan mountains. So then he goes on to say, had the banks of the Ganges not existed, meaning had that water not come here with this river, then a person as ordinary and weak as me, a person without resources, could never have been able to climb the Himalayas and touch the water there. And without those riverbanks, the concentrated flow of that pure source from the Himalayas would be scattered and would often tend to accept some polluted stream as pure Himalayan water, inviting our own misfortune. So he brings the analogy back. If the teachings preached by Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago are not carried forward through Guru Parampara, disciplic succession of spiritual masters, into the present time, if Jesus Christ's message is sought only in books and recorded instructions, then there is a possibility that we will mistakenly accept distortions of the truths preached by him, or even accept views that are opposite to his as his own. So he's not saying that it's not valid, that you can't do it. He's just saying, he's giving you that warning, like there's every chance that it'll get it mixed up. And so it's like, it's the test of the potency is if that message is kind of surviving the test of time, like it's creating gurus. Are there individuals who are able to imbibe the teachings by becoming a follower? And that's really actually the essence of the teachings of all spiritual teachings, is you have to become a follower. Jesus Christ said, stand up and follow me. He didn't say, stand up like you're also God, do your own thing, be spiritual now, just you have to wake up. No, he never said that, right?
Yeah.
So bhakti means devotional service, means you have to become a follower of someone who is a follower of someone who's a follower of God.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Jai.
Yeah. I was just, that's such a great analogy. And I want to let everyone know that this is not, you were talking about how Jesus is a world teacher. So Krishna is a world teacher. Okay. This is not a thing of, well, it's from India, so I like it. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's from India or anything like that. It has to do with the fact that we're dealing with real spiritual authority, because we are seekers of truth. We are seekers of wisdom. We are seekers of a higher entity than ourselves that we can call God and trust in and have a relationship with. Now you can find that in Christianity. And if that's where you're going to go, then that's a great thing. Here we are talking about Krishna and his glories and what we view to be the truth. And we accept other truths, of course. And it's not neither is it a thing of Eastern or Western at all. That is not even, this is all world. This is the world that we live in. Where the boundaries, I think Srila Prabhupada was talking about how the boundaries were completely gone back in the 70s, you know? And they didn't even have the internet. It was planes, trains, and automobiles and telephones back then, you know? So the boundaries have been down for quite a long time now. So this isn't, I just wanted to let everyone know this isn't a thing of East versus West at all. This is not, we're talking about spiritual truths, and we're trying to make a cohesive statement to help you in your life, viewer. So, all right. We're almost at 5 minutes. You want to read some more? Or what do you want to do?
Yeah, well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just tack on one sentence.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada would be the first one to say, like, I'm not an Indian. He said it so many times. Like, everyone's thinking in terms of this body, like, I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm Eastern, I'm Western,
Yeah.
I'm Hindu, I'm Christian, I'm Muslim. He
Mhm.
said, no, I'm none of those things. And he really proved that universality of this message. And yeah, it's not like it's our idea or his idea. This is spiritual truth coming down. Not just, yeah, and like this paragraph, we could go very in depth with this, because this isn't just going back 500 years. Chaitanya was 500 years. Vyasadeva is circa 1,000 years ago, 1,000, maybe 1,300 or so. There's different opinions on when but it's actually the Bhagavatam. Our scriptures say that he's an eternal being. He's immortal. He's not going to die. He's still alive, meaning he's still alive. You can go seek him out. There's a certain ashram, it's known where he is, but you have to be on the level to
Yeah.
Just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was saying, like, are you capable of climbing the Himalaya mountains? Are you capable of coming up to the level of Jesus? And this is very important. Actually, I want to take one more minute with this, because Srila Prabhupada is also a Jagat Guru. He's also a world teacher, but you have to approach him in disciplic succession. There's a big faction of people that say, no, he's the only guru, and you have to go directly to him. It's like, well, how can you say that you're qualified? If you were qualified, you would have met him. Like, God would have put you in a body during his time, but you're not. I mean, even if you are, it's like, you're here now. This is how you can follow Srila Prabhupada, is you follow his instructions, which are the same as every other spiritual master's instructions. Follow, become a disciple, learn how to become a disciple. And you can't do that just by saying, yeah, I'll be a disciple of Prabhupada or Vyasadeva or Jesus. But who's going to correct you? Who's going to give you feedback? And who's going to take responsibility for you? The guru has to say, yes, I take responsibility. He's a nice boy. He's a nice girl. Like, I'll take personal responsibility. I will take their karma. Mm-hmm. Anyway, those are a few different things. I mean, Jesus said anyone can lay their karma on me. I'm doing the sacrifice for everyone. Yeah. But why would you do that if you weren't serious about becoming a disciple and ending your sinful life by becoming a real follower and having a spiritual father who represents Jesus in your life. It's the same thing with Srila Prabhupada. In the spiritual world, there's no difference. There's no higher or lower. It's not like, oh, if I'm not directly Krishna's disciple, if I'm not first gen, then I'm less than. That's not how it works. Actually, Prabhupada explained he actually said it once and he started crying. He said, at every level down the disciplic line, the mercy gets sweeter and sweeter. And tears were flowing down his cheeks because he's actually relishing each step in that chain. It's not like he's less than because he's the servant of the servant 100 times removed. He said that's the most blissful place to be. You're most sheltered there. So this line is going back all the way to Brahma, Vyasadeva, and then Narada and Brahma are personalities who were here at the beginning of the universe, which is 4 billion years ago. So these teachings, like the Bhagavatam, is wrapped around conversations that are wrapped around the original conversation between Krishna and Brahma when this disciplic line started 4 billion years ago.
Right.
So it's like, it's very extensive. And then again, these personalities are associates of Lord Chaitanya. This is our disciplic line. Srila Prabhupada is establishing, hey, these are our authorities. If you have any qualms or what have you, what's the word? If you have any issues with our philosophy, go up there. These are the ones who are laying it down. These are the personalities who have laid the foundations. So the foundation. So take it up with them. And if you do, it's like the more that you learn about these personalities, just hearing their names, it's ecstatic. It's like, this is like an all-star lineup. It's like your dream fantasy football team. Right, it's like you get all of the players on the field. They're like announcing the players, and then Flutie or whatever, and you're like, yes, right? Like, oh, and he's there too. It's like, yes, these are your guys. These are the most competent, most highly advanced personalities to ever walk the face of the earth. So Prabhupada is mentioning it, and if you study, if you look into these personalities, you'll understand. Wow. I understand why Prabhupada is invoking them here. It's like, this is really cool.
Yeah. Well, we are at time right now. We got.
I think the next paragraph changes gears, so that's fine. Yeah. We got through one paragraph.
Yes, we got through a mantra in one paragraph. Yes. We're making progress.
Well, this is, again, the introduction is very thick.
Yeah.
So it's not something to just breeze through, especially, again, the purpose of this podcast is really to broadcast, to break down and discuss this philosophy, to present it to a wide audience. So anyone with interest can tap in and get some real thorough understanding of what Srila Prabhupada is presenting. That's really all we're trying to do. And of course, along with that, there's a great deal of relishing and enjoyment. It's very enlivening to hear these topics. And the more that we gain this foundational understanding of these things, we'll have a solid foundation on which we can build what we're going to be building here. So
really good subject matter. So last week we were talking about the power of the mantras. Now this week we are talking about the importance of authority. And we are going to continue on with this conversation tomorrow at the same time, at the same Zoom address. So if anyone wants to hop on that, you can find me at BhaktaJake _ or Bhakta _ Jake on Instagram. We do have a WhatsApp, and we are also on YouTube. So if you want to reach out to us, try to get at us if you can. Should we close out with reciting the Maha Mantra 3 times?
Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
All right. Hare Bol, and thank you very much, everyone who has watched and who has supported us. We will see you soon. Hare Bol.
Hare Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.